with an opening statement.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here. Somebody asked me the other day, I've been at this for over 3 decades, and does it feel like it's been that long? And I said, no, it feels like the first year all over again. And as long as we're feeling that way, and I think our players are feeling that way, then it's pretty special. But we are excited to get going. We're really grateful for the weather that we've had the last few days to be able to get outside and see balls in the sky, get some balls off dirt before we get going. I will tell you this about the 23 squad. They couldn't be more prepared to start this season, so it's time to start playing. And the reason that they couldn't be more prepared is because the kind of people that they are. And I think a lot of times in college athletics, we talk about wins and losses, but I think it's really important to know how you get to the right side of the scoreboard. And they are preparers, they're diligent, they're committed to being team first, they're committed to excellence, and it starts in the classroom and moves right on through on the playing field. And just their focus and effort makes them not only easy to coach, but a real joy to coach. And that's, after 3 decades, wonderful to say as well.
All right, questions?
Sure. Marin Angus, Hill Varsity coach. What goes into making the schedule like for this season? I think the biggest difference is that we're saying you're going to go to Clearwater instead of Palm Springs. So kind of what goes through that?
Well, the Clearwater is an invite, so we got invited, and that's obviously a very prestigious tournament, so you certainly want to accept that invitation. So upon accepting that invitation, quite a while ago, we decided rather than, and it wasn't even about Clearwater to the Mary Nutter, coast to coast, it was coast to coast week after, just what that does to the student athlete. So we figured, if we're going to play that kind of in that spot in the country on week 2 at such a high level, then week 3, we're not going quite as far west, just 1 time zone instead of 2.
I'll piggyback off of that. I think looking at that schedule in Clearwater, you're set to play UCLA, who's going to be joining the conference soon. Yeah. Thoughts on that and how the addition of the Bruins will just add more excitement to the conference.
Right. Well, arguably, maybe the most storied program in the country over the last 50 years. So it's an honor to bring a team of that caliber into the league, and I think it will really just continue to elevate softball in the Big Ten.
Coach, you shared that this team couldn't be more prepared to start the season because of the types of individuals they are. How do your 3 captains really cultivate that team leadership, team camaraderie ahead of the season?
Yes, our captains, the whole selection of captains we revamped a few years ago, and again, we've done captains various different ways, but the captains that are selected, and I say they do so much work that they almost self-select. But, we always do work in the summer, and we have people opt in, and we talk about what leadership is, why leadership is rewarding, but also the risks and the challenge of leadership, and we try to continue with that conversation. But I think what's important about all of those leaders is, first and foremost, they lead themselves very impeccably. And I think that's always the testament to a great leader, is you've got to lead yourself really well. And so if they can lead themselves well, it's much easier for them to have a clear conscience when they are working to hold others accountable or working to help nudge others to maybe do a little bit more. So I think it's easier to do when you do that. I think each and every one of them, Courtney's a second-year captain, so easier for her to find her voice more naturally because she's had a year of doing it. I think both Maya and Abby are still working to find their voice on a day-to-day basis. Their leadership by example is just second nature to them by now, but every once in a while I'm like poking them a little bit, like, say it. I know you see it, so say it. So, but they're growing every single day.
Rhonda, how many times have you practiced outside? I know the weather has blessed us with some nice days recently, and how have you guys adjusted to the changes on your field?
Well, the changes on the field have helped us be outside a couple more days, so thank you for mentioning that. We're really grateful. We've got new field turf and also a padded fence. Now, that's not, the padded fence hasn't been inducive of the weather, but what the padded fence has done is it's helped our outfielders know, most other fences in the league are padded, so we're running into that thing and trying to rob home runs and all sorts of things. I believe today will be day 5 outside in some capacity. Now, our infield, yesterday was the first day we were actually on dirt because of the freeze that we had and the ice that we actually had on the tarp. So, but just the balls in the sky and reading a ball, we're able to put down a mat so our hitters are hitting off the from home plate. And so for our outfielders to be able to play live with the field, the actual field instead of in the Hawks, that's really great.
You had some really good hitting teams over the years. What's the potential of this one with so many players back?
Well, I hate to compare. You know, one of our favorite phrases in our program is comparison is the thief of all joy. And so I really would like to talk about this team. But to your point, the way this team has gone about their preparation from the fall to now is right up there, top tier, top level. And so I think anytime you're able to coach a group of young women that are doing everything they can to be the best they can be on a daily basis, I think it's really easy for a coach to be at peace. I mean, on game day, your adrenaline's gonna run just like anybody else's, but you just have such peace and joy in trying to help guide them in their mission to be the best they can be. And if we keep it in small doses like that on a day-to-day basis or practice-to-practice basis, I think the sky's the limit. And then you string enough days together and you can kind of look back and go, wow, that was really special, and we did that. I'm not one, you know, they've set their goals. They've set the goals as a team, with our sports psychologists. The goals are presented to the coaches, and then we go to work trying to help them create processes to achieve those goals. But my goal for them is that they soar with their strengths, they're able to win the present moment game, and that they're able to be the best version of themselves on a day in and day out basis. And I think just from my experience in coaching, when athletes are able to do that, good things typically happen with the scoreboard.
How has Sarah been developing as a pitcher to transfer?
You know, there's always an adjustment with the transfer. You get a new pitching coach, but I think she's developing really nicely. She and Lori are developing a great relationship together. You know, she came off a wrist injury last year that kind of, if you look at her numbers from her sophomore year to her junior year at Southern Illinois, they look different. And a lot of that, in large part, was because of that wrist injury. So I think just the confidence to let it go. So she'll feature in our repertoire really nicely. Of course, Courtney's going to lead the way and get the ball here on Friday. And then Kaylin Kinney's the other one that I think we really need to take note of. She's really made a jump in her game.
How important was it for Courtney to come back for her last year?
Well, really important, but she made me keep a secret for a long time because she and I had a lot of conversations. So the fact that Courtney's back, Courtney just has a presence about her, and her teammates really respond to that presence. And, you know, we've talked a lot about, you know, sometimes when a leader has that kind of presence and they're expected to put that kind of energy forth all the time, you got to pull back a little bit and fill your own bucket. And so we're making sure she's doing some of that. But just to have her out there and take the field right in the center of the field and be featured in our lineup, she's a great two-way player. So she's going to feature big into our offense as well. And I just think that the rest of our players were probably as grateful as the coaches that she said, yes, I'm coming back.
Having Olivia Farrell on the coaching side of things in a way this season, how has that helped this team so far, and what's it been like for you?
Well, I'd have to have you talk to the players about how it's helped them, but I couldn't be more grateful that Liv Farrell's in our program still. First and foremost, was super glad that she got to finish her career on such a high note. Always worked, always did the right thing, always. And so the fact that she got to finish out her career on a championship note, you know, just was thrilling for us. But I'm telling you, she's a rising star in the coaching ranks, and she's going to be outstanding. And so to be able to maybe be a small part of her journey and try to mentor her along the way is really a big part of why we coach. You know, I think that's the other thing about coaching. When you talk about your why, and all of our coaching staff are educators by trade. So anytime we feel like we can help someone in education, whether it's in their next afterlife of softball or within the softball life, it's meaningful.
Talk about your infield and maybe second base going into the season.
So our infield is a very veteran infield, with the exception of second base. And, you know, I think our players, our returning players, because we're pretty much a veteran team, I think when we first put two freshmen out there to work at second, they're like, well, that's not Cam. And I had to remind them, Cam was a fifth-year All-American. So I wouldn't expect any freshman to step in and be a fifth-year All-American. But I will tell you, Kate Kaneda will get the nod there. And you can sense, it's palpable, the confidence that's growing in her week in and week out, and she's ready to take the field. I'm not saying she's going to be perfect. None of us are going to be perfect, but she's ready to take the field and make a difference. And most recently, I saw D1 softball advertised her as one of the top 80 freshmen in the country, and I think maybe the top 10 in the Big Ten.
With the D1 rankings, Billie Andrews, I don't think we can go through the press conference without talking about her. Just what do you have to say about her, and then knowing that in all, not just D1, but extra innings, softball America, all of them, they all have her in the top 100. So how special is it to have a player like that in your lineup?
Well, to lead off our lineup, Billie's a unique player in the one hole, because a lot of times, you'll have somebody with speed and somebody with a high on base percentage, which she has both, but she also has power. So the fact, I think the biggest thing that Billie's probably worked on, her offensive game from year 2 to year 3, is her strike zone management, strike zone awareness, because she believes she's an offensive threat, and she is. So sometimes she would chase out of the zone and pitchers wouldn't give her a strike. Well, now she's really focused on, if they give me a walk, okay, I can steal a base too, so maybe a walk's going to turn into a double. And that mentality is going to serve her really well, because then it's going to force pitchers to make a decision, or pitching coaches to make a decision whether they want to put her on. So the more disciplined she is in the zone, the better pitches she's going to get, and then maybe her power game could even grow a little bit. So Billie's just a special athlete, a special competitor, and we're really fortunate to have her on our team. And with her and Sid Gray on the left side, I believe it's as good as any left side in the country. I'll put them up against anybody.
Rhonda, what kind of follow-up effect do you feel from winning the Big Ten tournament last year and then making the NCAA tournament? Is there any sort of momentum that you guys can glean from those experiences?
I don't know if it's momentum or belief, because we really haven't talked about, we did all the celebrations, we had the ring ceremony, we were honored at the football game, but when we started in January, I don't really know that there's been anything mentioned unless a question comes up like this. I really think, again, that's a testament to so many of our returning players, is that they're focused on the now. But what I do believe it's done is it's created a belief. Like last year, as I stood here before you, and I think we went out the first weekend and maybe went 2-3, and we had a losing record after the first weekend. That was a lot because we just didn't know who we were as a team. I feel like we're starting this season maybe with a little bit of that wonder, but a lot more belief, and we know what we're capable of, and we've won at a high level.
I was actually going to ask that, going into this first weekend, so much kind of unknown, like you were just saying, you kind of maybe have an inkling of who you are as a team. How do you maybe work through some of those jitters with the team as they're walking into, for the first time, figuring out who they are as a group, as individuals together? Great
question. With bat and ball sports, and specifically hitting and pitching, they're so fine motor that you can't amp up. You can't treat it like you're a linebacker on the football team, right? It's a high skill, and so you have to do a lot to regulate. And in this case, on day one, I promise you it's going to be regulating adrenaline. And so in order for us to regulate adrenaline and slow down, what have we done to prepare them? I think each of our players have at least had 25 to 30 live at-bats, hitters versus pitchers. So we've done as much as we can to put them in that game-like situation, but it's still different when you put on your real uniform and take the field the first time. So I think a lot of our job as a coach is to help almost bring them down to even so their skills can go to work, maybe an extra breath. I told Courtney the other day, I said, Court, I know how you're going to be that very first pitch, so I'm just telling you right now, take an extra breath.
Rhonda, last year half the league made cut bids. Do you see the strength of the league being that good again this year?
I do. I when we have our coaches meetings, it's amazing. collectively what we're trying to do with our league to just elevate the presence of softball and then also the success of softball on the national level. So we've done some things with scheduling. We talk about scheduling a lot, how to competitively schedule in the non-conference, and then we've done a couple different things with our conference schedule as well. But we feel like if we can get half the league in the NCAA tournament, then we're going to have a great reputation on the national level. And the next step in that is last year we just had one team host a regional. Let's make that 2 or 3. So that tells you that we're climbing up in the rankings as well.
Rhonda, it's been a year of celebrating Title IX. Do you guys have anything planned to make sure that that gets recognized regularly at your games?
We do. We have a few things in the works, and I can't tell you all the little details because I don't know all the details, but I know that we have a few things in the works to keep extending that. That's obviously very near and dear to my heart since I was pre-Title IX and post-Title IX and I don't know, everything Title IX.
All right, any more questions for Coach Revelle? What would a successful season look like to you without giving up the goals that you, or giving away the goals that you want to keep in-house?
I know this isn't probably the answer that you're looking for. It's not a quotable answer, but I will tell you it's the same thing that I said earlier. For us to be able to win the present moment game, for our strengths to shine, every student athlete on that team has strengths, and so their strengths are as strong as they can be, and that we are maximizing who we are and being able to perform in the moment at the way we're capable of. And that takes a lot. Those are easy words to say, but it's really difficult, moment by moment, pitch by pitch, to regulate yourself and keep your mind right. So we've been working a lot from here up, working that our mindset is in a really strong place, and we understand that your thoughts can go in a hurry. You can strike out in a critical moment. It's hard. If it's Courtney and she strikes out in a critical moment, she has to go back out there on the mound. That's a quick bounce back. And so we're working on those quick bounce backs because we know we're going to have bounce back moments.
What does that look like? Like meditation, like just education? Like what does that look like?
Well, we work routinely with our sports psychologists. Right now, the topic that they're working on is confidence. And so she puts together all sorts of little handouts and exercises that they do, and in all of that, in working on that confidence, you come up with skills, and that we not only reinforce and practice, but we just make a part of our routine, whether it's breathing, whether it's self-talk, whether it's visualization, whether it's one-on-one meeting with the sports psych to work specifically on maybe something that is a sticking point for them. So it's just trying to sharpen as many tools as you can for those moments when you need to bounce back.
All right, last question.
You made a couple of additions to your coaching staff with Mark Watt and Mandy most recently. What do they bring to your staff, each of them respectively?
Well, I'll start with Coach Watt. Coach Watt is a legendary high school coach in this state, and I've known him for a long time. He's worked camp for a long time, and when he was at camp one day, he said, if I ever retire, I'd love to help. And so I remembered that, and that was several years ago. And so when we asked him to be a part, he's like, what can I do to help? So just to have his experience on the staff has been really nice. And then Mandy, being an 8-year head coach, she just thinks like a coach. Even though she's working in video and analytics, she just is able, like we had a staff meeting this morning, and she just brought things to the staff meeting that you just know she's been a head coach. So it's just a fresh set of eyes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next we'll have seniors.